Oh, hey, bud. You waiting on me? I walked out a second ago and Bear followed me, and then I realized that I did not have my camera. Gotta get back in that habit. Grabbing the camera every day.
Your chariot awaits. It's a little dirty.
The dirty chariot, I don't mind. Good morning, Gabriel. Good morning. Oh, hey, girl. Oh, fly on your eye. Hey, girl. It's morning milking time. On school days, Maya does this by himself, and I get the kids ready for school because I am the type to sing songs to the kids and tell jokes, and Maya's the type to not. He's not a morning person. So the cows get Maya's morning stoic silence, and the kids get my morning bubbliness, but they're on spring break, so I'm out here with them now. Get on in there. Is laid in mud, so I'm gonna have to work a little harder to get her udder clean. Maya left the hose inside for the milk machine. He'd taken it in to clean it, and so he's walking back up there to get it. There's this permaculture principle of zoning, which it's not complicated, it's very common sense, but it's basically like the areas you visit on a daily basis are zone 1, and then it goes on out to like zone 10 or whatever, depending on what you don't normally visit. And whenever we have to run back in the house to get something because we don't have it in the barn, it's not that far, the house is right there, but it's a couple hundred feet, a few hundred feet, I guess. And it's funny because that's whenever I always think of the permaculture principle of zoning. I understand why you want to have your daily places right outside your door. Oh, hey, goats. What's up, little goaties? What's up, little goaties? There's no snacks in there for you. There's no snacks. Here's Miss Hallie. Hey, girl. Still looking like a cartoon. She is a pretty girl, and she's gonna be a pretty cow. So last night, I put Hope on the stand, and her back quarter has not been producing as much. Now, that is the one she got mastitis in. It's not unusual for that to be down a little in production. It's still producing, and there's no more infection in it. But I had a hunch, and we usually put Helen in the stall at night because we've been like collecting the manure for composting, and it's also just easier to get her in there. But last night we put Hallie in the stall because I had a suspicion that maybe Hallie was helping herself to Hope's udder, and Hope is not her mom. So we were separating her from her mom, and I think I'm right because Hope's udder looks really full this morning. And the place where she was having that lower production looks really full this morning. So I think the baby was just eating off her Auntie Hope. So here's Heffy. Today is the first day she's going to be out on the pasture, hopefully holding her own in getting some milk from Hope. Up until this point, it's been a pretty hands-on experience for us. And the last time we put her out in the pasture, she just got so timid she wouldn't eat. She's a very timid calf. Not exactly ideal for a grafted calf. You want a calf that's going to be really aggressive about eating. So, you know, hopefully she will get up in there and eat. The point of having a grafted calf was to be able to not milk Hope in the evening, and then to eventually be able to like skip a day and leave the calf on because the calf would drain her. So far we are not at that place with Heffy. We'll see how it goes. She's setting up a net to keep things that get caught.
So she's trying to...
No, she's just setting it up. This is a pretty pond. This is not my pond, as you probably realize. This is our friend's pond, and we're doing a little fishing today. You said this is the most unlucky spot on the pond?
Yeah. Everyone else has
All the spots were unlucky then until someone caught a fish. You just haven't made this spot lucky yet.
No.
That's not how it works for you.
I've been sitting here probably the longest.
I think you've been sitting here about 7 minutes.
Yeah. But you also were sitting here and you didn't catch a single.
Okay, well,
So
are you going to cast again, or are you going to go to a different spot? So we are at our friends Jesse and Chastity's house. They have a YouTube channel called Willowbrook Homestead. You guys have probably seen them on our channel before. They're some of the first people we met whenever we announced we were moving to this area. And they have a pond out behind their house that has a lot of fish in it. So we came over here to Jesse and Chastity's to do some fishing. Drew and Katie came and we brought the kids. And they have a lot of largemouth bass, and so that's what we were fishing for today. We caught several. I got a good one. After Ezra told me my spot was unlucky, about 2 minutes later I pulled a fish out, which was really gratifying. It was really one of those moments where you're like, yes. So our plan was, we've been looking into like stocking and different things, and essentially Drew has really assessed our pond. There are a ton of tiny fish in our pond, specifically sunfish and crappie, or as they say here in South Carolina, crappie. And we need some predator fish. We need some fish that will eat the smaller fish and that will get big.
Come up with a nub. All right, cool.
Oh, look at that guy. Oh, you have a three-legged dog.
Listen,
I've always wanted one. I just can't bring myself to take one of their legs off.
I'm telling you, you know what happened to him is he went in the pond and come back just nubless.
Yeah. Our dog Cody has got a bum back leg that he can't walk on, but he still has it.
Okay,
All
nobody's
right, I'm going to
floating.
close
Nobody's
this tight,
floating.
and if we need to let some water out, we will. But I think that's that. You have to grab the rods, though.
Yeah, these are my kids' socks. And this is my kids' fishing rod. What would they do without a mother? My camera keeps overheating and shutting off. So
Yeah.
you've been fishing on this pond since you were a wee lad.
A wee lad. I grew up on this pond.
That's really cool. It's nice to get to share it with friends too, huh?
Oh yeah, definitely. Because we don't fish it enough. We need to fish it more. I got drugged down here the other day by Zoe, which was a great time. She caught some fish and she loves it.
Yeah.
I'm more taking them down to the lake because she
Yeah.
likes to catch crawfish down there,
Yeah.
and I like to just sit there and watch them, and
Yeah.
I'll have my catfish stuff going on, and we'll catch catfish. And
Yeah. Well, this was fun. I appreciate you letting us come out and fish.
yeah, absolutely, it's a great time.
All right.
Can you do it?
Yeah, we're about to take those fish out and put them in the pond.
These are the fish we caught today.
I really want to reach in, but I'm scared.
Yeah.
Here, can you reach in?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just scared.
Would you like me to say what we're doing? I met Jesse yesterday, and he was telling me about this pond that he has at his house that's overflowed with bass and how they're all stunted. And I was telling him about how this pond is stunted with bluegill because there are thousands of bluegill, but they can't grow bigger than about, 3 or 4 inches. They're all competing for food. This pond is full of prey and needs some predators, and his pond is full of predators. So it worked out really well for us to go take a few bass. We've had them in the water here. I've been using this flower pot with the bottom just to put oxygen in it for the last hour to let the fish get acclimated to the water here, because it just drops in and aerates it real easy. And so we just brought 6 bass home with us. Watch your feet there. We're gonna open this up and we'll get them, because they're ready to go. Brought 6 bass home with us that are gonna be the first bass in this pond. They are strong in here, which really lets you know that they traveled well. That was my biggest concern because
I'm gonna reach in now.
Look at them.
I love this.
but they traveled really well. They're strong.
Now we're gonna release
Is
them.
that the one I caught?
No, yours is bigger than this one.
That might be the one I
I
caught.
feel the bass.
Oh, he just went to a
wanna
happy
get one out.
place.
Yeah, well, 6 fish in a pond
Oh,
this
dang, I
big
got my jacket.
might not make such a big difference in the
Can
beginning.
Hey, can I
Hey.
grab one?
Yeah, hold on just a
Hold
second.
on.
We'll do it, Kate.
Okay.
6 fish this early on might not make that much of a difference, but if we do it a couple times, I think a pond this big could sustain about 20 to 25 bass to where they could actually grow to be large. So you don't want them stunting each other, and there's a chance that they'll start reproducing on their own. The spawn is actually happening right now, so of these 6 fish, they might make themselves at home really quickly.
Yeah.
Man, I don't want you getting soaked.
They're already soaked. Both shoes are already soaked.
They're strong right now too. They've done really well.
Oh, I was slippery.
Remember, make the okay sign
Here's how we
around
do
his
it. Okay,
tail.
check it out. We're gonna reach in.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
Is that the one I caught?
Go ahead and get a thumb in there in his mouth so that we don't damage his gills. We want to go easy on him.
Is
Go
that
ahead and
the
put
one?
your thumb in his mouth right there.
Well, wait. Hey, Uncle Drew, is that the one I caught?
Pinch hard. And then carry him over and set him in the water gently. Don't throw him in because this is a new place for him.
So,
Squat down, squat down.
And lower him in. No, we'll get you yours in a second.
Okay, let him go.
Then let him go.
Oh, not, okay, yeah. There you go.
There you go. He'll be fine.
Oh God, my jacket. Do you think we could be like catch those exact fish in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. But maybe not for a week or so before they're like comfortable here enough to do that.
I'm glad I got to release the one I caught. Do you think the one I caught was the biggest one?
You caught the biggest one. Other than Katie's, who caught the biggest one.
Together, y'all caught the biggest.
This one's name is Katie.
Nerf.
Males and females. Even though it's only 6 fish, it's like, it's a start. And really, yeah, I think 25 would be enough for them to grow to where where you could have like a potentially
population.
Like 5 and 7 pound bass and things like that, and not get stunted with a bunch of 2-pounders. A lot of times people will overstock their pond and then they end up.
All right, guys, so it is later, and I actually just went to edit the first part of this video and realized that I was having some issues with my camera overheating, and I actually lost about half the footage that I shot, which is unfortunate. And in losing that, I kind of lost some of the explanation of what we were doing. I did have part of it, but I wanted to just make really clear kind of what we're doing and why. So one of the big perks of this property for us was the fact that it had this beautiful 3-acre pond on it. 3 acres is a lot. It's a lot of water. But we really didn't know a whole lot about it. So I like fishing. That's something that I grew up doing. And we're into food security, so doing the homesteading thing, one source of food, it's a very viable one, is fish. And if you have a body of water that you're able to maintain a healthy population of fish in, and you don't overfish it, you don't overdo it, and you make sure that it stays in balance, you can have like a really sustainable source of food. Now, since we moved here, we've fished in the pond, but not like a ton. I mean, it's not something that we've been doing and pulling a bunch of fish out to eat. We've just been catching them and throwing them back in. And they're mostly been little bluegills. We caught a handful of things. We caught like a catfish over the time that we've been here. But I knew that all of the fish that we had caught were relatively small. I mean, like maybe this big was the catfish, and that was the biggest fish we'd caught. Everything else was really small. So I had some suspicions, but I don't really know a lot about this stuff. And my brother is a very passionate fisherman, and so I knew he was coming, and I thought, I'm just gonna wait for Drew to come and see what he thinks. So literally Drew got here, and the very night he got here, he was out here fishing in the pond after dark. He got on his kayak and went out and measured the depth, and most of the pond is not super deep. It's about 6 feet deep. There are places that it's a little over 10 feet. Much of it around the edges is like 3, which is pretty common. That's like pretty typical for a farm pond. And what he found was that there were a lot of small fish, and he noticed that things like bluegill, small bluegill, were hanging out like in the middle of the pond, which basically told him there really aren't a lot of predators going on in here. He wasn't seeing any big fish, he wasn't seeing any signs of big fish, and after fishing a substantial amount, all he caught were small bluegills and small crappies. And we started doing a lot of reading, looking this up, and basically what we decided we needed to do was add some predator fish into this pond that could essentially eat some of the smaller fish and get bigger, because all those smaller fish are staying small because they're competing with each other for food.
it really doesn't matter. I mean, they could just stay in here and stay small and keep reproducing. If we want this to be a sustainable and secure food source, we needed to bring some balance. So we started looking into some different places that do stocking, and there were a lot of really great places, and we were reading the different advice, but the thing is we have a lot of fish in this pond. We didn't feel like we needed to go buy 100 fish from somewhere. We thought, you know, if we could put about 20 largemouth bass in here that could start eating those really small, I mean, some of these bluegills are like this big. Of course, if there are ones this big, there's ones a lot smaller than that because they're actually naturally reproducing in here. And we decided we were gonna put some bass into this pond. So we went to Jesse's and got some. We actually had 2 other local friends offered to let us come pull a few bass off their pond. And Jesse was having kind of an opposite problem from us because he has a bunch of bass that are stunted because there are so many of them in there that they're competing for food and they can't get really big. And so pulling a handful out of his pond actually helps him and helps us. And then our other friends were willing to let us because they had a really big population. We could come thin it out a little bit because they weren't fishing a lot and they weren't taking anything out. And so we've added at this point about 15 good-sized bass total. And I think his goal during his time here was to put about 20 to 25 in. I think that it's really cool. It's really cool to play with. And it's really cool that there's this whole big live ecosystem out here on our farm that's catching the rainwater. That's a great resource to us because it's always nice to have a source of water when you've got a bunch of animals. But even beyond that, that we could support this and help it be, you know, a healthy source of food and just a healthy, thriving ecosystem is really cool. I'm actually doing some reading right now to learn different aquatic plants that I can plant along the shoreline here and kind of create some spaces. You can see there's some stuff growing here. There are some reeds that grow all along the dam wall, and then here we've got some different things. And aquatic plants that grow around the edges of ponds are so important for the health of the pond. It's actually what filters it and helps it stay clean, but of course it's a habitat for frogs and different things, for baby fish to hide, you know, shortly after hatching. So I'm looking into that. I'd love some suggestions if you know about these things or some resources to read. I had looked up just on Amazon to find some books, you know, that I might be able to look into. I didn't want to buy anything and plant it that I was unsure, you know, like if I didn't know that it was going to be successful. I don't want to hurt it. But yeah, that's where we're at on the pond. I've been loving having Drew here, and I know he loves having a mission, especially if it involves getting to fish a bunch. Thank you guys for hanging out with us today, and I'll update you on this as we make progress on it. I bless you. Until next time.